but the live stream is preparing. Getting connected, getting redirected to YouTube. Fantastic. And it looks like maybe the video is not coming through on YouTube. Let me just double check
Oh,
this.
okay.
Oh, yes, it
I thought you
is.
were saying on me. I was like, let me check. Let me check.
No, 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 no. Okay. No, I think we are golden. We are good to go. So, good morning, world, Wichita, Kansas, everybody out there who is tuning in, whether you're live or catching this later on. Welcome to Book Talk Tuesday. I'm Danielle Ramirez with Quiet Storm Services. Quiet Storm is a hybrid publisher that focuses on uplifting underrepresented voices and just empowered writing and impacting community. And today we are so honored and lucky to have Dr. Tasha with us. Welcome, Dr. Tasha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. So I am going to let everybody know a little bit about Dr. Tasha, and then we will get into our conversation. So, Dr. Latasha N. Eley Kelly, Dr. Tasha, respectfully, is the Millennial Black Professor, educator, well-being advocate, amplifier. I love this amplifier of underrepresented stories, and three-time first-generation college graduate. She holds a Ph.D. in language, literacy, and culture, teaches English literature and African American studies at the University of Maryland Global Campus, and founded TMBP Media, which is a nonprofit disrupting mainstream narratives. And when I read that, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to look more into that. And Left on Red, which is what we're going to be talking more about today. Left on Red is Kansas's only Black owned bookstore. A Virginia native, she lives in Park City, Kansas, with her husband, Corinthian Kelly. Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, so Dr. Tasha, tell us about this journey to Left on Red. What is it? How did you get here? All of the things.
So it's so funny that we're doing this today because the past few weeks I've I've been really reflecting on my journey. Sometimes you're so in the work that you don't get a chance to reflect. But just a few different opportunities I've had and conversations, I've had to stop and pause and actually think about the journey. And I was saying how I almost feel like I'm living a second life and being here so far away from home, that is it's magnified because people don't know me, that they don't know the life that I was living back home. So
Mm,
like you said, I'm from Virginia, and so my background and career up until a couple of years ago was in higher ed. So I worked in college student affairs, in admissions, advising, orientation, all that kind of stuff. I started adjunct teaching in 2016 for George Mason University. And then I also worked for almost a decade for the US Department of Education. So that was my life, like up until coming here. I was not an entrepreneur. I did not own a business until about a year before I came here is when I founded the Millennial Black Professor. But even that was during COVID. I always say people were just doing stuff like, so I still wasn't thinking about I'm going to eventually be a full-time entrepreneur and have a bookstore. But I always have love to read. My parents really fostered that in me at a very young age, and I've carried that with me. I will say that throughout my academic programs, particularly the last one, my doctoral program, I experienced extreme burnout
mm,
in many ways, but especially with reading. And that I still to this day kind of harbor a little bit of resentment as it
mm.
pertains to that, because it sucked the joy out of something that I find so much joy in. And so it's still been a struggle to kind of get back into my rhythm of the amount that I was reading for leisure prior to starting the program. But anyway, so I got out here. And once I kind of got a little bit stable, I started looking for other opportunities outside of the Department of Education. I transitioned to working for the College Board, which does the AP classes and SATs. They were launching their AP African American Studies course, and I was helping with the outreach around that. And then I found that I enjoyed that work, but it wasn't the right fit for me. It's particularly my mental health. So this is the Cliff Notes version, y'all. But so ultimately, I had gone through Spark Community Business Academy, but I went through for the Millennial Black Professor. But that program gave me the tools and the foundation to feel confident when it came time to pitch Left on Red.
Okay.
Uh, and then just one thing led to another.
I love that. One thing led to another. And I know you could probably write entire books about this journey. And then not even just with Left on Red, but the Millennial Black Professor. And then 10 years in the Department of Education. I'm sure you have plenty of stories to tell there.
Mhm.
But I think you said something really important that really is resonating with me. And when you talk about like getting back to a place where you can like enjoy your leisurely reading, this has been cropping up in my conversations too. And I've had this brief conversation about like how with Quiet Storm, I'm publishing nonfiction, but that's not because I don't have a love for fiction. It's because fiction is so near and dear to my heart that I wouldn't dare commodify on it. Although that's changing, I can very deeply resonate with what you're saying about like when you've had books and writing and these things as like almost pillars in your life, and then it becomes so much a part of your day to day, getting to that space where it is like back to where it's something special and precious, that can be so challenging. So I am just sending you all the well wishes on that journey. And maybe next year when we have a conversation, you'll have to like shed some light for us on how that's going.
Yeah, one of the things I haven't been fully successful yet, but I was talking with my therapist about a whole host of other things and she was like kind of calling out for me how I wasn't even though I've gotten a lot better about saying no and setting boundaries and stuff, there's still always so much going on that I wasn't then taking time for me. And so she was asking me, like, what are some of the things that you love to do? Do you have a hobby? And I was
Mhm.
telling her that about reading. So she was kind of assigning me to quarterly take a reading day and have it be a day that I
Ah,
find a space she said it could be at your house, but wherever that it's just you and your books and you just dedicate, get your charcuterie, like whatever, make it an
yeah.
experience. And I loved that idea. So I'm in the process now of trying to just identify what those days could be quarterly, but also I was looking at my calendar and typically we're closed on Mondays, and
Okay.
I've been trying really hard to leave my Mondays like as a as a sacred day and
Mm.
have Tuesday where we're also off be when I do administrative stuff and um appointments and stuff like that. So my goal moving forward is to try to hold Monday, at least a couple of Mondays a month, as that time where I can commit to reading. Because the other piece of it is not only do I enjoy reading for leisure, but as a bookstore owner, I need to be
Yeah.
reading. I want to make sure that I can connect with the customers and supporters on that level. So yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I love that recommendation. One of these times I'm gonna text you and be like, "Hey, have you scheduled your first date for that Monday leisure reading?" And because creating that space for ourselves is ultimately what's going to help the businesses and all the endeavors and our vision and our dreams be more successful. So kudos for you for just, being aware of that and doing it. Because in the end, like it matters so much.
Yeah.
Like you matter so much and having that space. And I'm saying this particularly to you too, because as I remember now, I've been having the pleasure of visiting Left on Red a few times. One of the books that you recommended to me, and I'm going to butcher the title, not on purpose, but it was like Rest.
Rest is
It,
resistance.
maybe it's
Okay.
an orange cover. It's like a small kind of maybe a 5x8. It's something. Rest is big in the title, and I think I got it over a year ago, and I've had the space to explore it like maybe once every 2 months. But that
Mhm.
recommendation was so on point,
Yeah.
Dr. Tasha. And so yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I believe it's probably Rest is Resistance, or the author, her name is Trisha Hersey. She has another book that's smaller. It's called We Will Rest, but both of them focus on, rest. And
Yes.
it's so funny we're talking about this because just a couple of days ago, she made a post on Thread saying that how frustrating it is when people use that phrase, rest is resistance, or talk about kind of the concepts that she's been promoting for years and they don't cite her. So there's this whole cite Black women movement. But so I typically don't do a lot of like talk, especially from my personal page, like
Yeah.
talking and commenting and stuff. But I felt compelled to let her know, as did some other individuals, just the impact that her work has had. And so I sent
Okay.
her a picture of the quote that we have on our wall in Left on Red. We had a local Black woman, artist, Kennedy Chapman. She did a mural in Left on Red, and the mural includes a quote from Trista Hersey about rest and what we really are here on this earth to do. And then it also has her name and then of course Kennedy's signature. So I've sent it to her and let her know, like, your work on rest has helped me so much in terms of my healing and ongoing healing and just processing like some of the trauma that I experienced during my time in higher ed and just transitioning out of the corporate world. And I was like, your quote is on the wall and you're cited. So
Yeah. Well, that's important. You know what? And I'm sorry to just step away for just a second. I
no,
want to
you're
make
fine.
sure. Oh
You
no.
trying to see if that's the
So
book?
I had, yeah, no. Okay. The
Oh,
one you gave,
is that Raheem? Octavia Raheem?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah. Okay.
but
Well,
absolutely
she's
important.
amazing as well.
Okay. Absolutely important on what you're saying. And I think, Dr. Tasha too, because when I think about Left on Red, I think about like the handful of times I've been there and how often I've heard like even people I know or strangers that are in the bookstore saying thank you for curating the space because it's the books are obviously a huge part and then but the entire space that you have created with the quote on the wall and then following up with the person who originated that and giving credit and giving that love and showing them how their work is impacted is truly, I don't even know that I have the full words, but it's like a work of art. And it's such an asset and resource to not even just Wichita, but to to the entire world. So I just want to extend my gratitude to you for pouring into it and making it what it is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I tell my husband often that one of the most rewarding things through this whole process is when the thing I kept saying when I was before we opened was I want the space to feel comfy, like a warm hug when you walk in, and for it to feel safe. And the number of people who have said that, of all backgrounds, but especially individuals from the Black community, Black women in particular. Last week, we had a lot of visitors from that were doing what do you call it? Like because of the hail, they were like insurance adjusters. And so they were from other states, Black women. And we also had some traveling nurses that came in, but each of them talked about how safe and calm and comforting and all of those things. And so that always makes me happy that what I envisioned is what it is for many people. I even had not too long after we opened, there was a young Black, I don't know if it could have been platonic, but it was a young Black couple that came in and essentially they were on a date. And it was just so cute. Like they came to the bookstore, they had their coloring books. That is what I love. Like I love being able to have that space because the reality is that there's some places where they might go and try to do that. And just off of the strength of what they look like, they're going to be because they did end up purchasing, but I wasn't concerned about that. I was just glad that they felt comfortable enough to come in and do that. So I'm grateful for you, saying that. That makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, and one of the not only, is have you curated the space and have the books available, but the events and the connection there has just been it's outstanding. And we had the pleasure of working with you on the Voices of Frequency event. And it's fascinating because, as you mentioned, like, I don't want to say just lack of, but like lack of safe spaces for certain groups, especially African Americans, especially where like a young couple can come and feel like not being hassled or feeling like they don't have that pressure to purchase, but to just enjoy each other.
Mhm.
Um, when we did the Voices of Frequency, and just a big shout out to Jan Chandler, John
Yeah.
Dylan Marshall, and
Yeah.
Tijuana Hardwell, because they were really the stars of that show. But it was so fascinating because I had planned to be attending in person.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I had some circumstances that didn't allow me to be in person. And then when I got to watch through the live video, I noticed that, I mean, essentially by the end of that event, I perceived that it had been an entire group, a group of African American people. And I don't know that I was meant to be in that space at that exact time. And I think that's okay. And I think that, you know, for me as a white person, a white individual, knowing that that's okay too, that there's a
Mhm.
time and space and that safety is going to look different, you know, at different times.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah, I
hadn't
have
even
some,
thought about
oh, go
that.
ahead.
No, go ahead. I
Huh?
hadn't even thought about that until you just now said it. But it,
It was
it
a, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's one of the things too when we do different interviews and stuff like that. Sometimes we'll be asked like, well, can anybody come? You know, and it reminds me of the library. It's a space for everyone. But what I do say is that, and I have this on all of my like event policies on the website. Any event that Left on Red, the Millennial Black Professor, TMBP Media is hosting or having at the store, it is centering the joy and the wellness and well-being of Black and brown people. And so as long as you are with that, and aligned with that, you are more than welcome. So that's how I feel about it. But there are some instances where I think it's wonderful that people are self-aware enough to know that this may not be the space for me right now, because it's, what I'm saying, like you were saying, because this group maybe needed this particular space and time to work through this or to have this conversation. But I would also say that a lot of times we think about it just in terms of race, but we hosted Dr. John Paul Higgins in May for as part of their book tour. So they had actually an international book tour, so we felt privileged to be able to host them. But they have a friend in Wichita who said, you should do a spot, do a stop in Wichita. So they reached out. It all worked out. What was so beautiful about that experience is that there was the audience was very diverse for that one, and there was a person who came in who bought the book ahead of time, and she was saying, I this is new for me, like new territory for me. I don't know much. She was talking about like the pronouns and just all different things. Like this is
Mhm.
she's working to better understand. And so she
Mhm.
wanted to get the book a week in advance so she could read it and be prepared. She came, and what I loved was that although I knew that she was it was something new and sensitive, maybe for her, maybe worried about articulating her questions or thoughts, that she felt safe enough to do that in that space. So she
Mhm.
asked, some questions, and Dr. Higgins was more than welcome, willing to answer them. And it was just that's also something that makes me happy and brings me joy, because I want people to feel like they can ask those tough questions, or the ones that they've been maybe scared to ask, but they're genuinely trying to expand their worldview and perspective. That's also what Left on Red is about.
I love it. And one of the other, I gotta share another thing that stuck out to me when I came in one of the times is, I don't know if it was like you had stickers on the counter or what it was, but something was very like neurodivergent affirming.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time in my life, um, I had some changes and some awareness happening around neurodivergence. And I think that was one of the first places that I was conscious of a space that was like celebrating it almost. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, like that was special. So yeah, it's beyond race, and it's beyond, it's, we look at all the belonging and safety and how all of these things are interwoven, and it's just like tremendous that we have this in Wichita. And I know we have to be conscious of time because you have
Yeah.
a meeting.
Ask,
Yeah,
the
oh,
person is running late, so I
oh,
asked them to text me when they get here.
oh, okay, perfect. So, well, then I can share just one other thought. It was like, um, you know, and I, when we we did the voices of frequency, I didn't have that understanding going into it. It wasn't until after the event and having conversations with some of the authors that I was like, oh, okay. So like, just
Yeah.
recognizing what support looks like too.
Mhm.
And so that kind of leads me to one of my last questions is just how can not even just the people of Wichita, I don't want to kind of limit that, just across the world, how
Mhm.
can they support the mission of Left on Red and the work that you're doing? And I will even extend that to connect to the Millennial Black Professor and the nonprofit you mentioned, TMBP Media.
Mhm.
All of these things are important and connected. So please share with us, like what is your need? What support needs are there right now at this time?
Yes. So even as you were listing it out, I was like, I'm doing so much. I'm just but I often refer to it as an ecosystem because it really is. So the Millennial Black Professor, it was just like I said, an idea during COVID, and it is really just a descriptor of me, and that's how I came up with it. But I wanted to be able to say I'm the real MVP, so that's why I did the Millennial Black Professor.
Okay,
Um,
okay. I
and
love
then
it.
so TMBP is just the acronym. And so I ended up winning, along with two other organizations, a grant from Wichita Foundation. It was called the Info Challenge Grant, and they partnered with Tiny News Collective to see three newsrooms stand up in Wichita that would highlight um, an area of news or community that needs more shine, maybe. And so one of the organizations is the Shout, and they focus on the arts. There's Planets of Venus, which was already standing, but now has additional support. And that's run by Claudia Amaro. And there's a focus on the Latino community. And she also offers translation services. And then TMBP Media focuses on amplifying Black stories. And so we have a podcast called Black in One Piece, where we invite Black individuals from all different walks of life to hear their story and ultimately hear what being Black in one piece means to them, because there is a thread often rooted in history, just things that have happened in our past that kind of tie us together, so to speak, or give us a shared experience, but we're also very, very different. And so I love hearing those stories of overlap, but also of how we differ and how, we are all moving through life based on our upbringing and so on and so forth. So that is what TMBP Media is. The Millennial Black Professor, when I went through Spark, I was focusing, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was selling t-shirts, I was doing copy editing, I was doing a podcast blog, all this stuff. And I ended up honing in on the writing services. But what I found was that I'm really good at that, but I do not enjoy it at all. So I was dreading every project that I got. But once I
Yeah.
realized, and I'm like, if I'm going to be working for myself, which I still was employed full time at that point, but I was like, I don't want to be choosing to do something that makes me miserable.
Yeah.
So then when I was transitioning into leaving my last job, I pivoted and started focusing on speaking engagements, workshops. And so last year I did a lot of that. Workshops focused on imposter syndrome, overcoming self-doubt, social justice work, things of that nature. So in terms of the Millennial Black Professor, if any organizations or individual need support in that way, that's something that the Millennial Black Professor offers. Matter of fact, this weekend I'll be presenting at the Kansas Association of Teachers of English conference at the
Mm.
Drury Hotel, and they asked me to come speak on just the journey of Left on Red, and particularly linking that to censorship and all the book bans, and just identifying ways that we can persist. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I have another social justice talk coming up this month. So anything in that arena, let me know. I'm your girl. And then
Yes.
and you can email me at dr.tasha at tmbpmedia.com. In terms of Left on Red, We would love to see you, 612 East Douglas Avenue, Suite 200. So we are at the Renfro, which is right across the street from NASCAR Park, and we are down Gallery Alley. So it's a beautiful rainbow colored walkway. You'll
Mm.
see it's about halfway down. So come in and shop. We also post well, for me, pretty frequently about our events and things. So it's leftonred.ict on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. So we welcome you to come to our events. We have a spades tournament coming up that we are co-hosting with the Black Print. So we're excited about that. And then TMBP Media is also having a fundraiser coming up called Small is Beautiful, where we will highlight
Oh.
all three of the Info Challenge grant winners. So it's a free event.
Oh.
It's November 5th at Chicken and Pickle. And yeah, it'll be so it is an opportunity for us to raise funds, but also just to increase awareness around the work that we're doing in the community. So, and
Right.
all are welcome. Those are some of the things that are going on. If you are from a distance, we will be launching the Left on Red membership drive. It's an 11:30 campaign. So last year, going on the road to opening, we had an 11:30 campaign just trying to raise $1,130 by November 30th, our open
Mhm.
date. And the community came through and was really supportive. And so I said, you know what? I think I want to do the 11:30 campaign again this year, but this time we're focusing on memberships. So definitely visit leftonredbooks.com, and it gives you all the goodies that you'll get if you become a member. We'll be posting about that coming up soon as well. But that's another great way, especially if you're not local, that you can support. And then we also have bookshop.org and libro.fm. If you go to those places and identify Left on Red as your chosen bookstore, any purchases you make, we get a little bit of support from that. So I know that was a lot, but
No, that's better to have more opportunities than not enough. So that, yeah, that's a lot of ways. And what I will do is plug a couple of these links. I may not be able to list all of that because that is a very full, robust offering, which is again phenomenal. And you sparked my interest on a couple of them, so I'll be looking to
oh,
follow up. Oh,
one other
yeah.
thing, I'm so sorry. And so Black in One Piece, please go. It's youtube.com/
Okay.
at TMBP Media. Or you can just Google Black in One Piece. But please go listen, subscribe. That also will help us out.
And that's on the Black and One Piece is the podcast, and it's on YouTube.
Yes. Or you can
So
also listen on Apple or wherever
okay.
you get your podcasts. But if you want to watch it live, like I love watching, so I can see people's interactions and facial expressions. That's on
Yeah.
YouTube. But yeah.
Yeah, I will go find that link and I will post that in the comments as well.
Okay.
So that we have several, nobody will have any good excuse not to be able to find you and all of these fabulous opportunities. So, okay, Dr. Tasha, thank you so very much for your time today and for everything that you poured into the community. Again, I'm just going to say it again. I can't wait to follow up with you to see about how you spent one of these Mondays doing
Yes. Yes.
like the
No,
self-care reading.
I can't wait to report out. Like I feel like it's gonna really be life changing. And the last thing I'll say, I know that we gotta go, but the last thing I'll
That's
say
all
is
right.
that in addition to Left on Red being a play on the text, somebody left you on red, and underrepresented authors and voices are often left on red. It's also something that helps me remember to prioritize my self-care. So I have in the window of the store a board and it says, "What are you leaving on red today?" So
Mhm.
I also think of Left on Red as a space where when you come through those doors, things that are bogging you down or stressing you, I hope that for that period of time that you're at Left on Red, you can leave those things on red coming into that store. And hopefully your experience at the store will allow you to, when you leave, also leave those things on red. So I think that the dedicated reading time is going to help me leave some of the I find sometimes as an entrepreneur, especially if you've had a long career in a traditional 9 to 5, you sometimes have a hard time shedding those toxic ways of working. So that's the stuff that I'm trying to leave on red.
Yes, yeah, I love that. I love it. And I got goosebumps when you said that. I didn't realize, like, I probably noticed it, but I like processing it and hearing you talk about it. Um, Beautiful. That is beautiful. I think that is maybe the foundation to a lot of this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I know I'm a talker, so thank you for allowing me to just share out. I really have enjoyed this.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, thank you everybody else who is watching on YouTube as well. If you have any questions for Tasha, pop them in the comments as she shared her email address. So hopefully we can get whoever needs to be connected. So